Most people associate the church with weddings, but what happens when it doesn't end happily ever after? Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Unhappily ever after.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Big E, the Elephant in the Room. My name is Melissa, and my host.
I'm Jackie.
And today we will be talking about unhappily ever after, divorced or separation in the church. So we have two wonderful guests that joined us today. We have Gia Evans, and we also have Lebecky Rowe. This is a topic that can be very uncomfortable, but we have noticed over the years that there are a lot of broken families that are in the church. So we thought we would bring this topic to the forefront due to all of us have experienced this situation, and we thought this would be a great topic to discuss our various views and actually our experiences of what we dealt with being divorced or separated in the church. So to just get started, we're going to start with our host, Jackie. Jackie, if you can just go in and tell your personal experience of what took place or what you dealt with in the church when you were going through your marriage and then became separated and divorced.
Sure. Again, thank you everybody for viewing. Thank you guests for being here. Thank you so much, Melissa, for that intro. So yes, I was married, happily married. So I thought for 11 years. I have two children, wonderful children as a result of that. In the process of that divorce and separation, of course, the separation started first. There was a lot of emotional turmoil. And I know a lot of people at the church that I attended started to ask questions. They're like, okay, is everything okay? Is everything all right? And I'm like, no, not really. Can't y'all help? Can anybody help? Because I'm crying out for help. Long story short, I had a few people who really got in here and tried to help us with our situation. We had a lot of interventions actually, and I forever grateful for them. They live in North Carolina now. They really stepped in and tried to talk to my former spouse, talk to me, try to get some help. I mean, really, really had that type of glue that they were trying. However, they weren't really in my church. They went to church, but they weren't in my church. The people in my church were really a little bit skeptical because they're like, well, if they really want help, they just go ahead and better pray about it. Go ahead and pray about it, then maybe it'll be fixed. I did have another young lady who would have me to pray a lot. We had a meeting, a women's meeting, a lot of support sometimes in the beginnings phases. As the separation started to lead towards divorce, unfortunately, a lot of people started to not really involve me with potlucks like I used to go to. I used to go to a lot of dinners and functions, and people start to look at you a little bit like you have the plague. Like, really don't go near her because she is having a hard time in her life, and I guess we don't want that negativity on my family. So I was pretty much so felt like I was excommunicated in a large way right there in the church. So I went to another denomination, denomination that my church that I grew up in it would be forbidden to go to that church for help. Well, they were the ones who helped me. They helped me with some resources, information, even meetings for support groups. Because the first thing I did was go to one of my pastors, and he knows if he ever sees this video, I thank you so much for helping me, because we had a 4-hour long conversation at the church. Within that 4-hour conversation, he admitted that the church, the domination I grew up in, is not equipped to help people that are widowed and divorced and have addictions and things like that. It's just not equipped to do it. Within that 4 hours, this is what he admitted, and he told me. And I experienced that harshly, me and my children. So I really am thankful that I found the groups outside of my denomination, and have the support that I needed, and here I am thriving.
Wow, well, that is such an amazing story, but so unfortunate that you had to go through that with the church and with your family and your children. And it's really, like we're discussing here, church is really a place to go of comfort and support. And it's unfortunate that when someone like yourself that is going through divorce, a lot of people actually turn their heads. Um, so I'm going to run it over to our guest. Let's roll it over to LeBecky. If you kind of just can tell us your experience of what you went through, and then we're going to follow up with Gia. We're going to have some additional conversation and discussion after we bring our own personal stories. So, LeBecky, can you tell us your experience?
Well, let me just say I was married for 15 years prior to separation. And during those 15 years, we had good times and we had some bad times. And church, we attended church periodically. We were not involved in the church during our marriage. But there's one thing that stands out for me when I think about my marriage. I remember when we were newlyweds, we had gone downtown Brooklyn to pay a bill. I don't know whether it was a light bill or a gas bill, but I remember going to the counter, he and I going to the counter, and we were newlyweds. So I guess it appeared that we were newlyweds. And I remember the lady, the customer service representative behind the counter saying, if you all put God first in your marriage will last. And that's something that stands out for me to this day. And who knows if we had participated in church, or if we had joined the church and followed what this lady who knew nothing about us had said, maybe our marriage would have lasted. Marriage is not always easy, and it takes two people to want to make that marriage last. And you just have to know when you have to bow out. I mean, you take vows, but vows are for us both. And if one person is not following it, then the other person has to realize when to say when. And I decided that I could do bad all by myself. Mm-hmm. And it's not that he's a bad guy, but he had the direction he wanted to go in, and I had the direction I wanted to go in, and there was no medium. So I had to do what I had to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, LeBecky, in expressing that. And I think a lot of sometimes relationships miss that missing piece is really putting God first and yes, putting him at the forefront of marriages. And that person did speak to you guys. You listened, but sometimes when we're in that midst of love, you're looking at that moment, you're like, okay, yeah, thank you. But
right.
As time progresses, you realize like, wow, you know what? That person made sense. There was that piece that, you realize that there was a possible hope there that could have been a change just by changing either your behavior, your conversation, or just your outlook on each other. So I really, truly appreciate your feedback and just letting us know how you felt and what you went through, because going through divorce is not easy. I've gone through it as well. So I'm going to move over to Gia. If you can tell us your personal experience of what you have gone through, I would greatly appreciate it.
No problem. So mine is similar to LeBecky in the fact of keeping God first. I really going into the marriage, which would have been 20 years this year, would have loved to have had that. But I think as I look back on our relationship, we were, as the church would say, not equally yoked when we got into this relationship. I think that I wanted I wanted God and in the relationship, but I don't think that he wanted to participate in it until it came to the end, where it was almost as if God can you help this? Can you save this? And I know that's what she wants, so that's what I'm willing to do. And like LaBecky stated too, it was hard. It was sitting there going, do you want to break up this family? Will it become a quotation broken family? But in the end, I think that I don't like the word broken, because I think that now as we've gone or separated, we're better. We're better for our kids. We're better for each other. And actually, I enjoy the relationship better. And I actually said recently that I like him as a friend better than I liked him as a husband. So I think that just like through those years, it started off. It started off like you're in the honeymoon state. You just you think everything's going to be fine or well, and then you also in the back of your head, even though you can't change people, but you kind of think like maybe I'll show them the change. So with me, that's and with the church, I would say that I was always the one going to church. I was always the one that participated. He would come periodically, visit, but it was always me. So I felt like I was the one throughout the marriage trying to fight for whatever it is we were going to have. So I think that my situation, the church was there with resources, but it's hard when you only have one person coming up to try to fight for it. So, very supportive from my experiences with the church. Not a lot of, I feel sorry. I kind of felt like sometimes I feel sorry for her. But I do feel like I did have that, support from the church. And, to this day, now it's more of, how do you move on from divorce and separation?
Okay. Well, thank you for telling your experience as well, Gia. And like you said, Gia, it takes two. And if you're the only one that and the only one that is going to church, the only one that's truly trying to make a difference and set the example for your children, and that other spouse is just not really on the same page, it can cause confusion. Can cause a lot of conflict and hurt in the family. And I can testify that to my own personal experience, being formerly married and divorced. I was married to my former husband for about 7.5, almost 8 years. And I was, he knew I was very active in the church. He knew I was very involved, and he would come occasionally. And then eventually he did start coming a little bit more because we did have a basketball team. So he, wanted to be on the basketball team. So he started attending because it got, close to the guys, and it just, flowed. So I started getting happy, not realizing it was more for the camaraderie of hanging out with the guys for the basketball tournaments, and instead of really being there. But in my mind, I was just like, man, he's going to church. This is great.
Right.
Eventually actually got baptized, and they even made him a deacon in the church. So I was excited. I'm like, yes, this is great. This is going well. And then, of course, things just shifted. Why did it even have to get to this point? But we're looking at it in a standpoint of saying God doesn't make mistakes. He does things to protect us. He's there to try to just bring us to be able to grow, become more knowledgeable, and and be more aware of what he feels is best for us. Because not everything that we do is for us, but he sees in the long run, that it's certain situations have to be put to a side for us to be able to heal and grow and become stronger as women. And this is not just for women; these are men too, because men go through heartaches and divorce and situations as well, and they're in broken situations as well. So, with that being said, I have a question. Why do people treat individuals, like we're going back to that? Why do people inside the church, why do they really treat individuals that are divorced and separate? Why do they feel it's necessary to treat them differently? Anyone want to take that?
I think sometimes people really don't know how to respond. And so in not knowing how to respond, you just don't respond at all. And I guess it's just like when someone passes away, you know you have to call a person, you want to call them, but you don't know what to say. So sometimes you just don't know what to say.
Mhm.
And you side on the side of caution and you say nothing.
Mhm. And I think, oh,
I'm sorry. I was going to say, and then that person feels isolated.
mhm. And I was just going to add to that, that I think it just depends on the type of church, the church's culture, because it could be like growing up in a Southern Baptist type church. You know, some people take Bible verses and they twist it in and make it to what, you know, it should, how it fits their situation. And so, you know, they may say stuff like, you know, oh, a woman should, you know, not be divorced. People should not be divorced. And, you know, so then if you're like, you know, a quotation Bible beater, then you're like, oh, you know, she's or he, whoever's in the sin because they've, you know, divorced. And so it's just, it just depends on like the church's atmosphere and their culture. It just, so it just, what's the word? It's just hard to explain, but it just goes back to maybe how they accept divorce in their church.
We know that God has called you to a mission, but sometimes you need a little help getting there. At the Center for Clergy and Church Support, we strive to encourage, empower, and equip ministries and nonprofit organizations to do all that God has called them to do. We handle basic legal issues, conduct administrative and financial audits, and strengthen organizations in community engagement and capacity building. Let us help your ministry or nonprofit in advancing the kingdom of God. Visit clergycenter.org for more information.
Divorce is not supposed to happen in a Christian household.
Mhm.
And other religions like Muslim, you're not supposed to get divorced. When I used to live in Middle East, divorce is becoming more common, unfortunately, because unfortunately a lot of people, you know, are following Western practices. But divorce is not supposed to happen. So you're not equipped. How are you equipped if it's not supposed to happen? So the church, in my opinion, face reality, like I've said before, this is happening. Divorce and widowhood, widowship, widowers which is the same thing as loss, in my opinion. You have to accept what is and equip yourself to accompany the body of Christ.
I want to touch on something that Jackie said. Jackie, I had a family member tell me the same thing, that I should stay with him because you know what you have, but you don't know what you're going to get. That was unacceptable for me. And I'll say, as Gia said, he and I are now the best of friends. You know, we had a spiritual household. We believed in God. We just did not attend church on a regular basis. But we prayed. We know who God is and we recognize him for who he is. But for the family member to tell me to stay with him just because I'm married to him and you know what you have. No.
Yeah. LeBecky, I can vouch for that too. That happened to me as well. And it was a family member. And I said, they said, just stay with him, let your child, you know, so they can be with you. And I said, but I'm not trying to be, you know, but you rather, like you said, Jackie, God forbid I was being like you said, my butt was being beaten. You want me to stay despite all, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, despite all. But, you know, and like you said, they're just they feel in their heart, they're doing the right thing. Not to discredit what they're doing, they're trying to do because they want the best for you, but they're not on the inside.
Right.
They really don't know. They really don't know what you're really going through.
Correct.
And that, even like you know, y'all all saying on the same thing, no one fully understands what you're going through unless you're in that actual situation. When you're in that situation, it's a whole different story.
Because you put up with a lot before you decide to leave. You don't just leave at the beginning of things going awry. No, you leave after a long term or a long time of putting up with the same stuff over and over again. And then you make the decision.
Yeah.
And you know, we all take our vows seriously because, you know, if had I still been married, I would have been married 31 years. Mm-hmm. But he and I are good friends. We separated when at the 15-year mark, and we divorced some years later, about 5 years later. Mm-hmm. But
yeah, a lot of times the elder people will tell you, well, I've had elder people say, stick with the devil you know. And I'm like, why do I want to be with any devil? And so, and then I've also had people say, well, why don't you just wait until your kids get out of school and they leave, and then it'll be like and then so, you know, I always say, like, why should I have to settle for being like people? So that's one of the things that I always had to say, you know, no, I want to have my peace now. And then, LaBecky, you were touching on you don't leave at the beginning. I think sometimes we've emotionally left and then we physically leave like years or sometime later. Like we've emotionally left a long time ago, but then we just physically do it later.
I like that. That's true.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
So, ladies, what do you think as any individual that's of leadership, pastor, or just anyone of leadership that is going through a situation maybe like us? Do you think they should stay in a relationship because they're a leader and they're setting the example for their congregation, or do you think it would be wise for that person of leadership to just say, you know what, I'm walking away because this is the best for me, despite what everybody else may think and feel?
I would definitely say don't. I think by being a leader, you let people know of your, you know, I'm not say weaknesses, but your challenges. So, you know, trying to hide, I would respect a leader more for just being transparent and, you know, allowing me to see their vulnerability. So I would say definitely don't.
So, Becky, your thoughts?
As a leader, folks are looking to you. And so we, as a people, we know that everything is not perfect, right? And like Gia said, when you're vulnerable, it helps, it may be helping someone else who might be in the same position and undecided about what to do. So sometimes we have to be vulnerable. We have to tell our story. We have to share because it can help someone else. Leaders have their problems too, with family, children, friendships. Yeah, we're all human at the end of the day. You just happen to be the person leading in whatever way you're leading. Well, whether it's political, in the church, on the ground, organizations, you're human. You make mistakes.
So this is, you're talking about children. So this is a good time to just bring this in. When it comes to children dealing and seeing their parents going through a separation or a divorce, I've noticed there's really no support in the church for young people. And I know, Jackie, you were going to have one of your children to kind of tell their experience. So can you just tell us briefly what they were going to possibly may say today?
Oh yeah, we had to. We didn't have to, but we just chose to go to another church to be around other people who were more single parenty. It was like more of a single parent church. And in their school, it was the same thing. They started to navigate towards other children who were also a part of a single parent household now. And they supported each other just greatly.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, that's good because, you know, I think a lot of people you know, they forget about the children. You know, they forget about what the children are emotionally dealing with and going through. And as parents, when we're going through it, we're trying to protect our child. We're trying to protect our children to not continue that cycle or think this is normal behavior. This is a normal situation and this is acceptable. So a lot of times, especially as mothers, we're protecting our children to safeguard them because we're trying to just say, listen, I don't want you to think this is normal. So what do you think, whoever wants to take it first, Gia or Becky, what are your thoughts on that?
I would say in regards to the children, you do want to protect them. And what you were saying, Melissa, as far as, showing them that this is not normal. For me, I could say that I wanted my children to see what healthy relationships look like. And it's healthier now because we're not together than when we were together. So I wanted them to see that. So I didn't want to, keep them in something that was not good for anyone. Like, if I wasn't gonna, if I were to stay in the relationship and it was not gonna allow me to give them everything that I could give them, like emotionally, physically, whatever, I didn't want to do that. So I think a lot of the choices, some people stay with their spouses because of the kids. I think mine was, I decided that we needed to separate this relationship because of the kids, because I wanted that for them. I wanted them to know what healthy parents look like. And unfortunately, the conversation that I had to have with them is that we may not be together, but they can see that, with a result of us not being together, we are both healthier and happier for them. Mm-hmm. So that was my experience for the kids.
My ex-husband and I, we co-parent, and it has gone really well with the co-parenting. We share in all things concerning our son. And I would have to say that our relationship is better for it. We have a great relationship. We both love our son equally. There is no less love. I think kids know when things are not right in the home. They feel it. They see it, and it's just a matter of us as adults getting it together and realizing that we will do better in raising our kids apart than to be living in the same home. Mm-hmm. Because we are affecting them by staying together with all the maybe arguing and bickering and just the being detached. And I think sometimes kids, it's better for them to have us separated because now, they get more. They may get more. They get more love. They get more things, and they get to, spend time with this parent and then with this parent, and they just feel the energy, and the energy is good. The love is there, the participation. Both parents show up to whatever the kid has, extracurricular activities. We're still there. We're showing how to parent without being in the same household, like Gia said. And the energy is just good, and the kids get to see that. And you still have both parents. The love is strong.
Well, ladies, I just want to thank you so much today for expressing your experience on your former relationships and just really, truly being transparent with us. That's what the Big E, the elephant in the room, is all about. Just speaking your truth and just letting people become more aware and knowledgeable of various issues and concerns that are going on in individuals' lives. So we just thank you so much. Thank you so much, the audience, for watching the Big E, the elephant in the room, where we speak about the unspeakable.
Welcome to What's Going On? My name is Demita Joe. Each Wednesday, you can find me here at 3 p.m. I'll be over here discussing different things that are going on and try to bring you a boost of positivity for your week because we all need this. We're going to share some feel-good stories. We might find a hometown hero. We may take a look at some trending topic. And sometimes we might even find a lesson in a not-so-warm and fuzzy story if we can. I'm Demita Joe, and I'll see you guys on the next episode right here on What's Going On?
Well, they do that, cause we do that though. I see you talking, so we gon' take it though. And yeah, talking cheap, so don't do that though. My click 100 deep.
This is Tyron
and Nicole with your weekly RATV news break. Each Thursday at 12 noon Eastern, we'll come to you with the latest news, trends, and more with a positive spin.
We know there's a lot of positive news that doesn't get reported, but we want to give you the opportunity to share your story here on RATV. If you have a positive news story you want us to share, you can submit your story to news@re-tv.net.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Relationship Entertainment Television YouTube channel. Download the new RATV Live app on your mobile device and follow Relationship Entertainment Television on your favorite social media platform.
Don't forget, make sure you tune into the RATV News Break each Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Until then, be blessed and be great.
Hey, it's your girl Tia Robertson. I'm the host of Entrepreneur Insider. Every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern for entrepreneurs and news that you need to know about. See you there.
Growing up in the church, we saw a lot. Things that people refuse to talk about. The elephants in the room. Mental illness. Sexual abuse, broken families, domestic violence, and so much more. The Big E, The Elephant in the Room, is a show that sheds light on these topics. We're here to speak about the unspeakable.